طيب بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا عليم. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه وبعد. So we're continuing our sessions exploring the very important text in Tajweed, Matn Jazariyyah. And inshallah, in today's session, we're going to continue where we left off. We covered the introduction, and today we're going to continue with what the Imam says following the introduction. And we'll read it together quickly first, and then we'll talk about what some of the meanings that and what we will cover in this session, inshallah, you will see. So the Imam says, مخارج الحروف 17 على الذي يختاره من اختبر للجوف ألف وأختاها وهي حروف مد للهواء تنتهي ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء ومن وسطه فعين حاء أدناه غين خاؤها والقاف أقصى اللسان فوق ثم الكاف أسفل والوسط فجيم الشين يا والضاد من حافته إذ وليا لضراس من أيسر أو يمناها واللام أدناها لمنتهاها والنون من طرفه تحت جعل والراء يدانيه لظهر أدخل والطاء والدال وتا من هو من عليا الثنايا والصفير مستكن منه ومن فوق الثنايا السفلى والظاء والذال وثال العليا من طرفيهما ومن بطن الشفة فالفاء مع أطراف الثنايا المشرفة للشفتين الواو باء ميم وغنة مخرجها الخيشوم. So we're starting off with our first topic, okay? And before we dive right into it, we're going to do some groundwork together, okay? So let's talk about the letters of the Arabic language, okay? So how many letters do we have in the Arabic language? Can you guys just type it into chat box? Take 30 seconds. Write in the chat box how many letters in the Arabic language.
Sheikh, it says the chat is disabled.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, try again. Is it working now? I see it privately coming in, but yes, Bismillah. There you go. Okay, so number of views said 28, 27, 29. Nah. Okay. So let's try to write them down. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna write it down and we're gonna see what we're gonna see is how many letters are there actually. Okay, so all right, so I think my screen is not showing up, is it?
No, it's just black.
Okay, just a minute. Let's try again. Is it still black?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having technical difficulties. to connect this. Okay, you're able to see this?
Yes.
Everyone can see this? No, marhaba. Okay, great. So we're gonna write it out, okay? So let's try again. We have letters of the Arabic language. So I'm going to start with the Hamza, okay? And then we're gonna write ba, ta, tha, okay? And then we're gonna write jim, ha, wa, and then we're gonna go dal, zad, ra, za, okay? And then sin, shin, صاد, ضاد, and then I'm gonna say طا, ظا, and عين, غين, and فاء, قاف, and we'll go back to some other colors just to keep it interesting. But I forgot a dot over there. Okay, فاء, قاف, and then كاف, لام, and then ميم, نون, ها, واو, yeah. And then we're gonna write lam alif. Okay, so if we count it, right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Okay, this is what we call the written letters. Okay, al-huruf al-maktuba, also referred to as huruf al-hijaiyah. Okay, originally this guy right here, okay, was not written. Okay, I'm going to separate it. Okay, and I wrote it above on the alif because this is the normal way of writing the hamza to demonstrate it. It's typically demonstrated on an alif. Okay, if we think about it, the hamza, and I will show you an example, inshallah. Typically, it was not a written letter. It was a pronounced letter, okay? And the original alphabet was not organized this way, okay? The original alphabet was not organized this way. There was an imam by the name of Asim ibn Nasr al-Laythi. He is considered the first person who organized the letters in this structure. Before that, they used to be in another form called the Abjadiyya form. And some of you maybe have heard about it, where you read Abjad, Hawwiz, Hutti, Kalamun. So it's Alif, Ba, Jim, Dal, Abjad, Hawwiz, Ha, Waw, Zay, and so on. It's basically a different organization, and this organization is still used usually when you're making lists. When you're making lists, you will see the organization as alif, then ba, then jim, then dal. Abjad, hawwiz, ha, waw, zay, kalamun, kaf, lam, mim, nun. And there's two variants. And at the end of the class, when we're going to quickly review Hisab al-Jummal, which is how they used to attribute numerals to each of these. Okay. We will discover that there were slight variances between what they call the Mashayikha, the Easterners, and the Westerners. Westerners being Moroccans, Algerians, and so on, the Maghariba. Okay. And it is this, in fact, this Abjadiyya that Imam Shatibi brilliantly used to codify the Qurra and their Ruwat, to codify them. So he gave to each of the Qari a letter. He made for Imam Nafi', he gave him the letter Alif. Okay? Alif represents Imam Nafi' in the poem of Imam Shatibi. And Imam Ibn al-Jazari actually followed the same um, uh, way, the same codification to codify the Qur'an in his work, طيبة النشر. Okay, and this is a good thing to remember, because you inshallah, when you read later about the works of these imams, you'll be absolutely amazed at subhanallah, what geniuses we have. MashaAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created these our mashayikh with such amazing talents that they were able to codify and give you the summary of the ilm in this manner. Just to give you an example, Imam Shatibi, he says regarding the basmala, and who reads it, right at the beginning of that bab, he says وَبَسْمَلَ بَيْنَ السُّورَتَيْنِ بِسُنَّةٍ وبسمل بين السورتين بسنة رجال نموها درية وتحملا, right? And he's giving these codes. وبسمل بين السورتين, and then he tells you بسنة. Ba represents Imam Nafi'. بسنة. رجال. Ra represents Imam al-Kisai, the seventh of the seven Qurra. نعم. رجال نموها. Noon represents Imam Asim. Okay? So anyways, I don't want to go in that path, but just to give you an idea that letters and their incredible usage in qira'at, in ilm al-qira'at, okay? And inshallah, you'll explore it at a more advanced level course, inshallah. So we have discovered that so far that there are 29 written letters. The alif typically would be written like this, with the lam. Why did they write the alif with the lam? Because the alif, if you think about it, unlike other letters, does not take a haraka. We know about harakat, fatha, dhamma, kasra. Think about the alif for a second, anywhere in the Quran that it comes. Does it have a haraka? No. What does have a haraka is the hamza written on top of the alif, right? And that is hamza. Okay, so the alif is written as such with the lam, and to represent, it is a letter in the sense that it has a sound, but it cannot be by itself. All right, have a look at this. Okay, this is taken from an early manuscript of the Quran. Okay, I don't know exactly how early, but let's try to see this. This makes it better. No. So this, if you look at it, first of all, what are some of the things we notice? What are some of the things you're noticing? Do you see any dots? There are no dots. Do you see any fatha, dhamma, kasra? There's none, right? Do you see the letter hamza? Let's try to look at this, okay? I'll give you, how about this? I give you 10 seconds for the huffaz, mashallah. We have lots of huffaz here, okay? I want to give you 10 seconds to figure out which passage is this. Where is this from? Okay? You can write just the beginning words if you want to write. If you want to write just the beginning, the first word in this passage. Try to read it. I'm counting down. And if you read it and you know what the first word is, just write the first word in the chat box. It's not easy, huh? Look at the work that the mashayikh did for us. to make the Quran very simple. Very, very simple. You want to know what it is? Here. This is what it is. Look at this. It starts here. وَجَاءَ أَهْلُ الْمَدِينَةِ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. That's what you were looking at. You want to look at it again? Let's go back. This is wow. وَجَاءَ. No, the a is missing. There's no hamza. Look at that. We write وَجَاءَ, right? There's no hamza. This is ahl. This is alif written. It's not a hamza either. They wrote the alif. Ahl. This is one word. Al-Madina. Alif, Lam, Mim, Dal, and Ya, Noon, and Ta. Al-Madina. This is Al-Madina. Yastabshirun is from here to here. Oh, I should go this way. This is Ya. This is Ya. Yes. Tab. She. This is Ra. Wow. Noon. Noon used to be written like this. Okay? So, my point from looking at this is that, do you notice Hamza anywhere? There's no Hamza, right? Hamza was, the writing of the Hamza was an invention by our Imam that we mentioned before, Imam al-Khalil al-Farahidi, Ahmad Khalil al-Farahidi. He is the one who it's attributed to, that he created the writing of the Hamza. And he said that the Hamza is very close to Ayn. He said, okay, they're close to each other. So he literally took Ayn, okay? He took Ayn and he did a surgery on the Ayn. He cut it. And so along came Hamza. All right? And they did that because, of course, we were having some challenges with people coming into the Islam and trying to recite the Quran and making mistakes because they were not Arabs. The Arabs, from the time of the Sahaba until further on, they did not have challenges because they were natives to the language. They knew what the language was. So when they read this passage, they didn't have an issue when they read this. They said, yeah, this is waja'a. This is ja'a, right? And actually, this is interesting because when two hamzas come together, there's some khilafat on how to read it amongst the qurra, and there's a reason for it. So anyways, the hamza in our recitation of Hafs is written, right? وَجَاءَ أَهْلُ الْمَدِينَةِ, and then hamza would be written on top. And if we go and we look at it, there's many places where the hamza has been written. Where is the hamza written? It's written on the line. Where is the hamza written? It's written on the alif. And when it was written on the alif, you will see the alif. Okay, so the alif was there always. Okay, and the hamza could have been, the alif was used as an indicator for hamza. What about wow? Wow is used. Okay, we go back to this. And if you look at here, قَالَ إِنَّ هَؤُلَاء, this is where it's starting. This is ha-u. Okay? Ha-u, la. And then you see that other hamza is still not written here. Ha-u-la'i. Huh? So, wow is used. Okay? Sometimes the hamza was represented, not written. Sometimes represented by the standing alif. Sometimes by the wow. Okay? And sometimes you have it on a ya. And I think in this example, now we don't have a hamza written, but it can come written on the ya. Okay? And if it's written on the ya would have been written. Now, okay? So this is as far as the writing goes. Okay? And it's good to have this idea now, that how does the writing function. Someone was asking that why some riwayat the hamza is not pronounced. When we come to the topic of hamza, we will have lots of discussion, inshallah ta'ala, and we will have Okay, let me rewind. We will not have a lot of discussion in terms of riwayat and why not. But you will know that Hamza is a letter that Arabs changed, and they did not keep it always the way it is pronounced. I'm sorry, Naam, it's pronounced. And we have just an example, and I don't want to go on that tangent, but we have one example of that in Surah Fussilat, and you're familiar with it, A'jami, where the Hamza is read with what we call tasheel. No. So we will, inshallah, have some discussion on that Hamza, what's going on with Hamza. Okay, so we're going to continue. This is your homework, inshallah. You'll discover by yourself. It's easier than the first one. I'll leave it when it goes on the classroom. Inshallah, you will figure out what passage this is, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Barakallahu fikum. So we go straight to what is a makhraj? Okay? What is a makhraj? The makhraj is the place where the sound naam, originates, the point from where the letters come from, to be more precise. Makhraj is where the letters come from, okay? And what makhraj can be what we call estimated or muqaddar or muhaqqaq, actualized or actual makhraj or estimated makhraj, and we will discover very shortly where the difference is. Okay, so the question is, how many makharij are there? Okay, so do we need to guess, or shall we just take a peek at our matan? Shall we guess? You want to guess? Some people are guessing. They're saying how many? Oh, they started saying 17 right away. طيب, the reason why you're saying 17 is because you have peeked at the matan. So let's peek at the matan. What does the Imam tell us? The Imam tells us, مخارج الحروف 17. Tells us, makharij of the makharij for the letters are 17. He says, 17 على الذي يختاره من اختبر. It's important, this piece that he left for us. على الذي يختاره من اختبر. According to the ones who have tested it, who are experienced, okay? Meaning there's khilaf in how many makharij are there. Meaning there's khilaf on the number of makharij, okay? And the khilaf, okay, comes from attribution of makharij, of letters to one makharaj or multiple makharij, okay? Generally, and we'll detail it out, okay? So before we do that, so we are agreeing all together that the makharij are 17 according to the majority. The majority position is that there are 17, okay? The position, just as inshallah, a side note, is good for you to know. Sibawayh, how many people heard of his name? Imam, a big giant in Arabic grammar. Many people, I think, have heard of the name Sibawayh. Kitab al-Sibawayh is big, well known. His position is that there are 16 makharij only. Okay? 16. I'm just giving you little small short snippets of the khilafat, and then we will look at where the khilaf, why the khilaf. And then some others, including an Imam Abu Zakaria al-Farra, they said 14. 14 makharij. 14 makharij for the letters. Let's have a look at this, okay? What are the major articulation areas? Okay, the major areas that the letters are coming from. Okay, so we have this. We start at the top, let's say right, and work our way down if we want, or we go upwards. Let's go that way. So this section right here, okay, this one right here, this is pointing to the halq. Okay, al-halq. And we're gonna talk about the halq today. Okay, the throat. Throat. And we have al-jawf, okay? And this is the empty cavity, okay? We can say the empty cavity. By the way, these notes are going to be up. You make your own notes, and these will be available as well for you, inshallah ta'ala, as were the last slides. Now, the empty cavity, the hollowness that is within your mouth and the throat, okay? That area. And in Arabic, it's called al-jawf, okay? And then we have the khayshum. We're going to go up here. Khayshum is the nasal cavity. And we have, this is pointing to the palate, but there's a reason why the palate has been drawn out here, is because it has a role in producing the letters, okay? And we have over here the tongue, okay? And then we have the teeth, and again, there's a reason why the teeth are written there, and then the lips, okay? So if I'm going to count the major areas, I'm going to say number one, and or rather we should do it according to the way the Imam has done it. So the jawf, and then two, the throat, and then three, the tongue, and then the fourth is the lips, and then the fifth is the nasal cavity. Okay? Al-khayshum. And we're going to see these terminologies. You're going to have to get familiar with these terminologies. Okay? I'm writing it in English, but the text will talk about it in Arabic, and you'll get used to it, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? So these are the areas where all the letters are coming from one of these areas. Okay? In the beginning of these lines, he says, مخارج الحروف 17. We covered that. Now, he says, للجوف. We're starting something here. Okay? So I want to make a point of it. This is al-jawf. We said the jawf was, what was the jawf? Who remembers?
Empty cavity.
The empty cavity. Now, the cavity within your mouth. Exactly. Now, barakallahu feekum. What does he say? لِلْجَوْفِ أَلِفٌ. So he's telling you the letters that are coming from the jawf. One, alif. وَأُخْتَاهَا. And then he left it with, and its sisters. So alif is a mad letter, we call it. Harf maddiya. So its sister letters are going to be ya maddiya and waw maddiya. And if you know what they are, good. If you don't know, I have to tell you. I think everyone should know what ya maddiya and waw maddiya is. Now, ya maddiya is one that does not have a haraka, correct? But it has a kasra preceding it. E, right? Qila. If we say qila, that's ya maddiya. It's not ya mutaharrika. If we say waw maddiya, what do we mean by that? The waw that acts as a mad. What's going to happen? We're going to have a dhamma before it. And the waw is going to be sakin. Okay? So alif and its sister letters being ya al-maddiya and waw al-maddiya, right? They come from the empty part. And he says, وَهِيَ حُرُوفُ مَدٍّ. He says that. حُرُوفُ مَدٍ. They are حُرُوف مَدٍ. لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي. This is isharatan that if we were to say for instance, let me say I can continue saying until I run out of breath. Or ooh, or e. Okay? They continue as long as you have breath. The moment you start to feel dizzy and collapse, khalas, that med letter will stop. You won't pronounce it anymore. طيب? So we have three letters here, right? Three letters. Okay? Then the other thing to remember about these letters, the letters that come from the jawf, is that they are considered, or this makhraj is considered muqaddar. It's an estimated makhraj. Because if I am to say, can you tell me where specifically the alif is produced from? Specifically, because we're going to see that there are places where the letters are produced from. Okay, so we're looking at this mouth and throat cavity, and we're looking at the three letters that we just talked about. These are mad letters: alif, and waw, and ya. Okay, if you say the tongue stays down, and the entire throat mouth cavity produces this sound. Okay, when I say ooh, ooh, and continue, the ooh sound, the med sound for the wow. What happens? Same thing. The sound is coming from the cavity, throat to mouth. That entire area is producing this sound. What is interestingly happening, just we will note quickly, is that if you look at the position of the tongue here, in this one, how the tongue stays flat. And you could try and say, your tongue does not change position. When we say ooh, the tongue in the back actually pulls. Ooh, and you'll practice it, inshallah, on your own time, inshallah ta'ala, and you will feel it. You will know it right away. This is ooh. And then we say e, the middle section of the tongue rises up towards the palate, the roof of the mouth. Okay, that's what's happening anatomically, if we can say. Now, okay. Then the Imam continues and he says, ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء. So we got to look at this new major place where the letters are produced from. Al-halq. We moved now, huh? We went from the empty region right here, right? This entire section, the emptiness, and now we're moving to the throat. Okay, we're very specifically looking at this area, this purpled area in color purple. Okay, we're looking at it in a little bit more detail. So let's take a look at it, and we will see that there are three specific places of articulation in this throat. Okay, and we go back and we read what the Imam says, and then we'll go back to the slides. Okay. ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء. So he is specifying something more. So I'm going to give this an orange. Sorry. Okay. This is أقصى الحلق. So he said the halq, well, that's the major area, right? And then he's talking about أقصى الحلق. أقصى meaning the furthest. Okay, the furthest from what? From the front of your mouth. If you were to look at this as being the front, my lips are the frontmost part of my face, right? So we're going furthest back. Okay, and by the way, this is the structure of this entire poem in this section. We work our way up, pretty much consistently going up, 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 and out. All right. So he says أقصى الحلق همز هاء. He says there are two letters that are coming from this region. Okay, the أقصى الحلق. This is Hamza and Ha, come from أقصى الحلق. So this is أقصى الحلق. We're having Hamza and Ha coming from it. All right. And then what the Imam tells us after, he says وَمِن وَسَطِهِ. So imagine we're in Canada and we're now, right, going in regions, right? You're moving from the Eastern time zone or Eastern region to the Central region to the Western region. We can look at it that way. That's just an example, right? وَمِن وَسَطِهِ. What is coming from the wasat, ya Imam? He tells us فَعَيْنٌ حَاءُ. Two letters again. Actually, we're going to count letters. So I'm going to go back and erase this and make this 4 and 5. And this is, sorry, we're going to count by regions or by the main makhraj. So this is 1, 2, And this is 3 and 4. Okay? فَعَيْنٌ حَاءُ. All right? So here we are. We have two letters coming from the wasat. So let's go back. And this is our area. Now we've moved upwards. We're in the middle part of the throat. This is wasat. So he says ayn and ha. Ayn and ha come from the middle of the throat. And this is roughly the area. This area, by the way, if you want to be anatomically very accurate or close to being accurate, and we have perhaps some people who work in the medical field, the area where the hamza and ha comes from is the area of your larynx or voice box, is where the vocal cords are. Okay, that's the area, right? That it's coming from. This is the area. This is the vocal cords. Vocal cords. If you look here on the right side, these are the vocal cords, right? And this is the section where the hamza and ha comes from. And ayn and ha is coming from this further up right here in this area, right? And this is what we call in medical terms, they call it the epiglottis. I don't know if some of you are familiar with this. I think we have a couple of doctors here, so they know probably. But either way, it's good to know this because inshallah, you may want to look up the anatomy of the throat in, a medical book and see what do they call it anatomically. What is it called? Okay. Now, so then finally, what do we have? We have adnahu. Okay, we shifted regions again. You're paying attention, I hope. We shifted regions. We moved further up. What's coming from there? Ghaynun, ghaynun kha'u, kha'uha. All right, two letters are coming from adnahu, ghaynun kha'uha. Of course, kha'uha, he wrote it for the rhyming of the poem. We talked about the meter and how it has to follow the meter. Now, so adnahu ghaynun kha'uha. So we go back to our slides and we look here, and this is the area now that is even further up. Ghaynun kha. So ghayn, the letter ghayn and kha come from a further place up. Where is it roughly? Okay, it's where the root of the tongue. If you look at this is what we call, this area is like the root of the tongue. Tongue is a muscle. It attaches to a particular point, right? And it curves. You can see it right here, right? And so this, we call it like the root of the tongue, and it's produced in this area along with the adjacent throat. Everything has to have, something is to happen, and we're going to talk about how sounds are produced, inshallah, in the next session, a little bit, all right? So there has to be some contact usually, right? Or a separation of two objects that produce sound. So this is the region where ghayn and kha are coming from. So we can, I forget I think one of our doctor friends will help us, inshallah, identify where this region is specifically, what is it termed rather, anatomically, inshallah ta'ala. I forget. I think it's not the nasopharynx, but anyways, inshallah, you look it up. Now, so this is the last section in the throat. So we have, just to confirm, just to finally say it, we have the throat, that's the main region, and we have 6 letters coming from it, 2 from 3 regions, okay? An example of that is explained in one of the books I shared with you beautifully by the father of our dear Sheikh Mu'ad Safwat, Sheikh Safwat Salin. He tells you, like, if you want to think about the major areas and the specific makharij, is like, think about a building and it having certain floors, right? So it has those floors, and so the floors are what we told you about in the major articulation. And then in these specific floors, you have specific rooms, let's say. And so these rooms are where these letters are coming from. Okay, so that's another way of remembering it, inshallah ta'ala. Now, inshallah, I will get to the questions soon, inshallah. I'll just finish. So we're looking at these letters now, and we are just demonstrating here that hamza and ha is represented here. This is Hamza and Ha coming in this area. We already mentioned that. And then Ain and Ha and Ghain and Kha. Okay? All right. So what? Go back to the lines and remember the lines. We said ثم لأقصى الحلق ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء أقصى الحلق, the very bottom, the furthest part. ومن وسطه فعين حاء أدناه غين خاؤها. We stop there, okay? Because that's the end of the throat region. The throat, we're going to stop. There's no more letters except for these 6 that are produced in the throat, okay? We move on to another major area of articulation, okay? And what is this? This is the tongue, all right? And we look at that this tongue has been sectioned. The reason is because depending on what section, depending on the letter, it will be from a particular section. It's not going to be, we say the tongue, it's coming from the tongue. Yes, it's coming from the tongue, but specifically where? And the ulama are very keen on telling you, and Imam Ibn Jazari tells us specifically where it's coming from the tongue. So we're just going to look at the anatomy of the tongue quickly and the palate, and we're going to stop there, inshallah ta'ala. So if you look at we're going to work our way from the top because we're going outwards. I mentioned to you the letters outwards, and this is represented like a sort of upside down if you think about it. So you have, this is the root of the tongue. Jadhrul lisan. Jadhr, okay? The root, okay? And then this is aqsa lisan. This is the farthest portion of the tongue. Aqsa lisan, okay? And we're going to look at it in the text, and it will mention to you uh, right after. If you look here, وَالْقَافُ أَقْصَى اللِّسَانُ فَوْقُ, right away he tells you. Okay, أقصى اللسان. This is the furthest part of the tongue. Okay, this is the middle of the tongue. You have the middle of the tongue. All right, there's a section, and it has very specific letters that come from it. Okay, and then if we go off to the side on the left first, okay, this is the edge of the tongue. Okay, this is حافة اللسان. حافة. Okay, and he's going to mention that there is a letter that comes from there, the edge of the tongue. Okay, and if we look at these little areas, I mean, it's not a must, but this is what they call it, the furthest portion of the edge of the tongue. أقصى حافة. Okay, and this little arrow represents أدنى حافة, the closest. Okay, closest. Okay, so this is all related to the edge of the tongue. All right, and then we go further, and this is what we call this in Arabic. If we can go here, this one is called طرف اللسان. Okay, طرف. Okay, and طرف can be like the front. We can call it the front. All right. And then finally, we have what's represented at the very front is the tip of the tongue. Okay, this is the very tip, the real edge of the tongue. All right, so this is the tongue, and we're gonna have discussion about where the letters come from the tongue. Okay, and I wanted to just represent the anatomy quickly. And if you look here, I'm just showing you the roof of the mouth. If you think about it, I mentioned to you when we talk about the throat, something has to happen. The throat on its own is not going to do. There's usually going to be some connection, some joining of certain parts of your body. Because if you think about it, if I want to produce sound with my hands right now, okay, I have to do something, right? Like, I mean, I can't just be like, oh, the clap comes from the hands. No, the clap comes from the hands because I put them together, right? Or if there is something that's already tied together and I want to produce sound from it, like a paper, for instance, right? What do I have to do? I have to rip it apart to produce sound, right? So there's always an adjacent, like The makhraj is here, but it works in tandem with something else. And the tongue in particular always works with the roof of the mouth somehow. Okay? You will have a discussion. What part is it specifically coming from? We will look at this particular diagram, inshallah, in the next session. I see it's 8:46, and I don't want to go over time. So we will stop here, inshallah ta'ala, and we will continue next session talking about the rest of the letters, inshallah ta'ala. So in summary, just to go back, we discussed makharij, we talked about the letters, we talked about makharij al-huruf, we talked about the major areas of articulation. Then we identified al-jawf. We called it the hollow or the empty space, right? And we said that this is where the med letters are produced. On that note specifically, because we mentioned the ulama having a difference of opinion regarding how many makhraj are there, let's go back to this slide. This is where you will know that Imam Sibawayh and others who agreed with him did not consider the jawf as a makhraj, by the way. And so he said that alif is basically where the hamza is coming from, roughly. And the ya and the waw from their actual makharaj. Al-Maddiyah we're talking about, okay? And Al-Farra and others said the same, and they reduced another. They said lam, noon, and ra. All these three letters are from one makhraj. Okay, so this was they said no jawf. If we write jawf, there's no main makhraj like jawf. They didn't agree with the people who said for 16. Okay. And the 14 said, yeah, there's no jawf, and lam and noon and ra come from the same place. And this is where the difference is. Okay? But we agree, as the Imam said, makharij al-huruf 17. Okay? And this is what we agree on and we take from our mashayikh. And if you find a question about it, I hope you don't get it wrong. Okay? And then you have the halq, we mentioned it, and we talked about the three regions within the throat and the letters that come from it. Inshallah, I will stop here and I will take questions. And if anybody needs to leave, Bismillah, you have inshallah permission to leave. You don't have to stay. Now, if you have questions, inshallah, you can put up your hand. I did see previously a hand, so that's why I'm asking. Or it's crystal clear, inshallah ta'ala. I hope it's crystal clear. No. Okay, inshallah. So we will conclude here, inshallah ta'ala, since there are no questions. Let me just check the chat box. No questions, inshallah ta'ala. Oh, sorry, quick question. No, تفضل يا brother Sayyid Iftikhar. Go ahead. The mic is not working. Go ahead. You can write, inshallah ta'ala. Go for it. Adnahu, yes, the closest portion. So Brother Iftikhar is asking, does adnahu mean the closest portion? Correct. So when we're looking at the text and we read adnahu, this is the closest portion. Exactly. Where is the text? Our text is not showing up. No, it's there. This is the text. No, adnahu, closest. Adna, closer. Dana yadnu, you have ثم دنا فتدلى, right? In Surah Al-Najm, ya Hufad. Correct? Now, ثم دنا, then he came close. Now, Brother Tanvir, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm noticing that there was differences on some of the makharij of ghain and where al-Jazariyyah and Shatabi, they disagreed on where some of these letters were articulating from. Some said from the upper portion of the throat, and others said lower. Why was there a difference here?
Yeah, this is a long topic and there is difference, no doubt. I think for our purposes, I don't want to go into the details of it. I think there are some relevant texts that you can refer to. If you read Arabic, Dr. Ghanim Qadduri has a really large explanation of the Jazariyyah and he delves into it deeply. I'll see if I can find it and I'll post it in the classroom, inshallah. You can have a read through that. But yeah, the ulama disagreed and يعني they have their reasons. They give their reasons why they disagree. So it's in essence, as we said, for the Imam al-Jazari, who is considered Khatimatul Muhaqqiqin. He is like the finality of all the ones who reach like a pinnacle in this science. He told us 17, and basically this is like the majority position. That the ones who said finally that the letters are from 17 makharij.
Okay, shukran.
You're welcome. Yeah. Naam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
In regards to the makharij for Hamza and Ha, is it correct for us to say like the bottom of the throat? Is that
Yeah, so you
accurate?
can say top, middle, bottom. That's fine as well.
Okay.
Yeah. We can say top, middle, bottom, and that works. Now, if you want to refer to it as such. Look, the issue is that there are no in English, there is no consensus on terminology use, right? So you may have some people say top, middle, bottom of throat, and that's perfectly okay. Or you can say the furthest, the middle, and the closest. Both of them are acceptable, inshallah. As long, the point, when we're discussing in this course, for our intensive purposes, when we're discussing any topic, the idea is that the material becomes completely understood by in your mind, inshallah ta'ala. We're not going to have niqashat, like disagreements and argumentations about, no, but why not? Let's use this. As long as you understand and you're able to articulate, like you will see this in sifat, for instance. When we study sifat, and I'm saying it ahead of time, and you will see that yourself, you'll struggle to come up with the sifat of a letter. And I will say, leave the text for a second and think about it yourself. Say the letter sa and try to think of its sifat. Think about it, feel it, okay? Ultimately, this science is so that we can recite the Quran. Now, Quran is oral. We should feel. When we're producing the letters, we want to know, is it coming from the right place? Let's feel it. And there is an expert ear, inshallah, when you're sitting in front of a teacher, who is assessing, and he can feel the difference. He is trained, he or she. نعم, the mashayikh who have ijazat in Quran, they're very specific. They know. They can tell if you're not producing it from the right place, or you're adding something, or you're taking away. So inshallah, I went a little bit long, but the khulasa that, yeah, we're not going to have like large disagreements about يعني the terminologies per se, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, I hope it's clear. وإياكم. What are the Arabic terms for the middle and tip of the tongue? So middle, we said وسط اللسان. Okay. All right, وسط اللسان. And طرف اللسان is how when we say طرف, some have said tip of the tongue or طرف. I say the front. I prefer that because there's also رأس اللسان, right? The edge, the front edge. Okay, so I feel like the tip is more precise to say the tip of my tongue is literally the tip of my tongue, right? We say it's at the tip of my tongue, right? Like, I mean, we really mean like it's just hanging. It's like right there. So the front little edge, right? Now, you mentioned the writing of the letter Hamza was started by a sheikh. Naam. The writing of the letter was invented. The written form of the Hamza was Imam Khalil Ahmad al-Farahidi. Naam, we mentioned that. Okay, inshallah, I think if you have any further questions, since mashallah, some of the people have really good adab and they don't want to leave until the class ends. So I will end the class, inshallah ta'ala. And if you have any further questions, you're more than welcome to write it on Google Classroom, inshallah ta'ala. We will stop here, inshallah ta'ala. And I will see you back on Sunday, inshallah, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m., inshallah ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to be there, inshallah ta'ala. وبالله التوفيق وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.